Spectacular? Can I let you guys in on a little secret? So I'm a little nervous today, and I'll tell you why. Today's casual Sunday, and Reverend Wells said, be casual. So I'm here in my jeans, but my teacher, Helen Carey, is here, and she's the one that taught me how to dress on the platform. So it's casual Sunday, but I'm not in uniform, Helen. She said, I'm okay. All right, we're good to go. Let's give a round of applause for the Reverend Dr. Helen Carey, the teacher of all teachers. Yes. Yes. We love you, Helen. We thank you. I will be back in my suit as soon as the fall comes. We are in the series, Sermon on the Mount, and Reverend Dr. Wells pointed us to this as a core teaching of Jesus the Christ, to get us to the core of what Jesus was teaching us. And last week, Reverend McDowell started us off by teaching all 9, because he's a show-off. He has to let us know he can do all 9 in one Sunday, all 9 Beatitudes. So don't cheat yourself. Make sure that you go to YouTube and see that lesson. But today we're going to talk about ask, seek, knock. And just to give you some context for the period that Jesus was teaching in and the period in his personal ministry. At the time that he was teaching the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was new to his ministry. And he was actually calling people to reconsider their relationship with God. It was a bit of a challenge, actually, to the religious leaders of the time. Remember, Jesus is Jewish. And so he's actually putting a little bit of a challenge to the traditional Jewish leaders of the time. And he's speaking to people that are what? Fishermen, they're farmers, they're craftsmen, but he's letting them know in simple terms, understandable terms, that you can have a bountiful life right now, and here is how you have that bountiful life. It was a way of being that Jesus was and is teaching us. And so the scripture says, ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. And I want to stop right there because I really want to focus on that word everyone, everyone, everyone. They said everyone so many times in that scripture. They could have used any term. But most translations come to the term or some similar term, everyone. Let me ask everyone in the room to raise their hands. So everyone is someone, right? So everyone can use this formula that Jesus gave us, and it's really important because he was making sure that if you were not born in a certain neighborhood, this applies to you. If you were not born of a certain class, this applies to you. Doesn't matter where you came from, what city you came from. This is for everyone. This rule doesn't need you to show up to church every Sunday, but show up to church every Sunday. This rule doesn't need you to dress fancy. This rule doesn't need you, as we like to tell the young men, to pull their pants up, but they should pull their pants up. But it's still everyone has access to this truth. And so in the first step, he's asking us to ask. Ask, seek, knock is a threefold process. 3 parts, threefold process. And so let's start with ask. Ask is not a request. Do you guys remember when we taught Ask in the Dream series? Ask is not a request. It is an exercise in spiritual identity. An exercise in spiritual identity. And the example I want to use for an exercise in spiritual identity is our founder, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, someone that exercised her spiritual identity first. Little history lesson that I like to tell my friends that belong to other churches, belong to other religious traditions, and they're always, what's so special about Johnny? What's so special? Y'all talk about Johnny, Johnny, Johnny. You call yourself a Johnny Coleman's baby. You're not her baby. Why do you say Johnny Coleman's baby? Besides everything that we learned from her, the way she moved in her spiritual identity was revolutionary. I want you to think back to what was going on in the 1950s. Think back to what was going on in 1950s America for black women, let alone 2019 America for black women. This is 1950s America when this church was founded, and the woman said that I'm going to pastor a church. I'm going to teach a theology that isn't traditional in the black community. Then I'm going to build a church. Then I'm going to expand the church. Then I'm going to build another church, which is the largest church in the city at the time this church was built. None of that makes sense through the prism of the physical identity, right? It doesn't make sense through the identity of black woman from the South. She went around that. And I actually want to go to her seminal book, It Works If You Work It, and quote from the founder. Remember, we're still talking about ask here. Listen closely. This is revolutionary. This is a quote from her. She says, I don't ever want to hear you saying that you are just a servant of God. You are not just a servant. Hold on, that's kind of a smack in the face, but I'm going to read on. She says, you are a son, child of God. And if a son, then an heir through Christ. She's talking about herself. She says, I believe that I'm an heir. I believe I'm entitled. Nobody's giving me anything. It's rightfully mine. It's rightfully mine. So when we are talking about ask here in the Sermon on the Mount, it is walking in your identity such that you know it is rightfully yours. It's not begging. It's not requesting. It is walking in identity. I have a Samsung because I'm not plugged into the matrix like the rest of you iPhone users. But when you guys sign on to your iPhone, you can punch in a number, right? But you can also put a thumbprint and your phone unlocks. Is that right? Are there any iPhone users in here? I know Reverend McDowell is one. He teases me all the time because of my Samsung. Reverend Wells is one. When you guys want to unlock your phone, you can just put your fingerprint on the phone and it unlocks. Or your phone will recognize your face. I don't care nothing about security and folks looking into your business, but you can look at your phone, right? The phone recognizes your face, and the phone unlocks. You are asking the phone to unlock, but all you really do is present your identity to the phone. Here's my fingerprint. It's mine. You know it's mine. Give me what belongs to me. And the phone unlocks. Here is my face. You see my face. You know it's my face. The technology recognizes your face, and the phone unlocks. The ask that is in ask The way that Jesus is teaching it is like the iPhone. You're just showing your fingerprint. You are not requesting the good that already belongs to you. You are an heir. You are a child of God. It's already yours. You are walking in your identity. Just Friday, I was driving Reverend Wells. We went to an event downtown. And after the event, we went to pick up his car from the valet. Are you guys with me? And all I had to do was walk up to the stand, hand him the ticket. When I turn around and I start talking to Reverend Wells, we're talking about whatever we need to talk about. He actually ends up praying for someone on the street because that's Reverend Wells. We're making our plans for the next thing, and what happens? The car shows up. I did not have to think about where the car was coming from. I did not have to think about how the car was going to get there. What lot did they put it in? Where are they going to park it? We're on Wabash. How are they going to parallel park this car? I didn't think about none of that. I presented the identity. I presented the ask, but all I really did was walk in my own identity. Here you go. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Are you guys with me? Talk back to me. We're not going to be quiet in here today. Talk back to me. Are you with me? When the choir is saying and singing to us that God will make a way out of no way, I'm telling you right now how that's done. But making the way out of no way comes from working through these spiritual principles. Y'all better not get sleepy on me in here. I know it's warm outside. We're going to be done in a minute. You are a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws. So the ask is walking in your spiritual identity first. You cannot move on without that. Otherwise, you are fighting against the wind on this. So let's get practical with it. How do I press my spiritual fingertip to access the iPhones of my dreams, to access what I want? The next step is search or seek. Now, I have two very precocious sons. They're normally here on the front row, and my wife is normally holding them down from jumping up here. They're in New York this weekend. And both of my sons play baseball. Very, very proud of them. My youngest son, his team made it to the championship. And my oldest son, he made the all-star team for their respective leagues. Baseball, baseball, baseball. I'm sitting out in the sun fighting mosquitoes all summer. But I love it. And one of the things that you have to know about baseball is defense is everything. Defense is everything. Other team can't score, you don't have to worry about it. And it's a tough sport because it's slow. Baseball is a slow game. It's slow for the observer, but it's also slow at times for the participant. You can be sitting, my oldest son, he plays outfield and second base. My younger son plays third base, shortstop. You can be sitting there, innings. No balls are hit towards you. But when the ball is hit towards you, you got to be ready. And so what they have in Little League Baseball is they teach the children what's called the ready position. So I'm not going to fully demonstrate because I'm not going to split these jeans. But the ready position is such that they can move any way. They have to bend their knees. They have to have eyes up, looking forward. They have to have the glove low. They have to be able to move right or left, be able to run backwards, run forward very quickly. It's a position that they have to be in no matter what's happening. The ready position of our mind is how we seek and search. I want you to stay with me on this. If your mind is focused on your past, is focused on what you haven't done, is focused on failures, if your mind is focused on guilt of what you wish you had done, it's a form of seeking, but you're looking in the wrong direction. You are not in ready position. We all have moments where we say, man, if only I had not done this, I would be in this better place. Who here's had a moment like that? If only I had not done this one thing, or if only I had done this thing when it was in front of me. And it gnaws on us. It chews on us. But in this process of asking, seeking, and knocking, you are not supposed to be looking in your past. You are not supposed to have your mind focused on anything that is unlike God. And it sits there in your subconscious mind, and we'll get to that in a second. But you're not in ready position. You're not ready to receive the ideas. If your mind is looking to the outer world, if your mind is saying, look at this idiot criminal, Donald Trump, and everything that he's doing, and that's the reason my life ain't right. Because Donald Trump is doing X, Y, and Z, and he's messing this up, and he's messing that up, and you're watching CNN every night, and you're watching MSNBC every night, and every day it's a new scandal, and how can this clown get away with this? Trying to get my bills paid, and this guy is robbing the entire country. Your mind is still focused on the outer. You have joined a race consciousness of complaining. You have now begun to meditate on somebody that sprays tan on his face to get out of the house every day, but you're trying to make your life better. You're trying to do better things with your life, but your mind is stayed on and is seeking things outside of yourself. So let me tell you the solution. The real seek is when you turn to God and when you turn to your spiritual identity. Practically speaking, though, Gavin, what does that mean? What do you mean turn to God, Gavin? Well, let me tell you. Pay attention to your intuition. Pay attention to your intuition. Your intuition is God speaking to you. It is that still, small voice. It's telling you what to do. When you get quiet and you turn off the TV, it whispers to you. When you stop thinking about what you wish you had done, it encourages you. When you start looking past and comparing yourself to what the other people have and you ain't got it yet, how am I going to get there? It instructs you. That is the seeking. That is the searching. You must choose, and you have the power for conscious choice of thought. You must choose to turn to spirit, and you must listen. But there is a caveat to that. Like in baseball, the information comes unexpectedly. So like I said, my kids can be sitting there, and especially when they were younger, they'd be in the outfield, and I'd look up, and they'd be picking dandelions, picking at the grass, counting the clouds. Their mind is wandering. You're supposed to be in ready position. You're supposed to be focused on one thing. That ball gets hit to you, you're ready to catch it. They're picking the grass out the ground, playing in the dirt. But that can happen. No ball is hit to you for 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings. 4th inning, that ball gets hit smoking to you. Then what happens? Bounces, hits you in the mouth, now you're crying. But you weren't in ready position. The game is slow, and then it's fast. That is how life works for us. You are waiting. You are patient. The game is slow, but you can't take your eye off the ball. When it comes, you have to be in the position. Ball is coming fast. You're thinking about what you could have done, should have done. It gets past you or it hits you in the mouth. Ball is coming fast, and you're thinking about Donald Trump or what the government's doing, it hits you in the mouth. Ball's coming fast, and you're thinking about what your friends have and how they got. Ball hits you in the mouth. You're not ready. Stay ready no matter what the situation looks like. The batter looks like they're not going to hit the ball to you. You don't know what's going to happen. When we rely 100% on intellect, we are not seeking in the way Jesus is teaching us to seek. In our intellectual ways, we can think of about 10 ways to get money, 20 ways to get money. You can maybe think of 100 ways to get money. There is an infinite number of ways to get money because God is infinite and God is the source. So you have to stay ready because you think the money's coming from this way. The ball bounces, it comes from that way. You got to be ready to catch it. But you have to keep your mind still and ready to receive. Are you guys still with me? When you see my sons in the hallway, tell them Gavin said, your daddy said you are great baseball players. You guys are wonderful. And then they're going to go to the tape. The last step is knock. And to me, it's the most important step. Bear with me on this. So one of my favorite rappers is a guy named Meek Mill. Oh, we got some Meek Mill fans in the house. All right. So if you know Meek, you know he was born in Philadelphia, born into poverty, had a crazy tough life as a child. His father was actually killed when he was 5 years old. But he was always trying to be a rapper, always trying to be a hip-hop artist. By the time he was a teenager, he was making some headway in it. Started to sell little mixtapes on the street. He joined, other rap groups. His name was getting out there. Then at the age of 18, he was arrested, but he was beaten during the arrest, beaten badly. But then, as sometimes our justice system goes, he was charged with assault on the police that beat him. Now, I want you to just sit with that for a minute, because one of our jobs here at Christ Universal Temple, actually our primary job, Reverend McDowell, is to transform lives. We have to transform lives by transforming minds. But there are people that we will encounter. They have backgrounds that we don't know about. They've been through things we don't know about. As all of us sit in this room, some of us have been through things that we don't even tell people about. And so these young men on the streets of Chicago that are killing each other, that are hurting each other, that are always on the news, sometimes there's stories in there. There's pain in there. There's something in there that needs to be fixed. For me, I cannot fathom being charged, somebody saying you're going to go to jail for assaulting a cop when you were beat by the cops. When I think of my sons and how I have to teach them how to encounter police, you got to coach them up. Can't have an ego with police. You have to be calm. You have to say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Do whatever you need to do to get home safely. It's a different way that we have to teach our sons and daughters to deal with police, and I'm not getting off the topic, trust me. But for people that have been through the system, that have dealt with things, that can sometimes completely break you. To be beaten and then falsely accused. And then the false accusation, which put him on probation, killed his career in that moment. But he got past it. And so he started working with another rap group called, a rap label called Grand Hustle. And Grand Hustle's a huge label. The head of that label is a guy named T.I., who was on top at that time. And so now he's working on his album. This is about to be huge. I'm on the Grand Hustle label. T.I. is over the label. T.I. is working with me. We're putting together albums. And then T.I. gets into legal trouble. So then this album that he's been working on gets shelved. Nothing that's his fault. You think you're on top, and that guy, he gets in legal trouble. They say, well, we're not releasing your album. He doesn't shut down. He keeps moving on. Eventually, he signs with a label called the Maybach Music Group, which I love. And he's able to put together an album. He's able to get the album out. He's able to be a chart topper. He's able to start making millions of dollars, touring the world. And there, on that album that really broke him out, he starts the song with the line that says, I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. So I had to grind like that to shine like this. I want you to hear what he said. I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. So, therefore, ergo, I had to grind like that to shine like this. Ladies and gentlemen of Christ Universal Temple, there is no shine without the grind. There is no shine without that grind. You got the ask. You've done the seeking. You absolutely must do the knocking. The knocking in that is the actual work you have to do. And as you can see, I can find gospel in any music. I can hear the gospel in any song. So when I heard him say that, he did not just keep praying as he was going through all of these tribulations. He did not just have to keep working to keep his mind right. He had to grind, as the young kids say. He had to keep moving his feet. He had to keep working at it. The opening of the door after the knock is absolutely inevitable. But you must knock. Even in the Sermon on the Mount and the Lord's Prayer, Jesus said, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's because he's reminding you, all right, heavenly work is done, let's get down to earth. Here at Christ Universal Temple, some of our people, we like to say, oh, let's hold the vision. I'm holding the vision for this to be done. I'm seeing it with you. That's all we have to do. Is hold the vision. Missing a step. It's 3 steps. You absolutely have to work. Your spiritual instruction is what you are going to get when you pray. When you ask and you seek, you're going to get a miracle, but the miracle is going to come in the form of instruction. You want to know the difference between magic and a miracle? Magic is, I got a hat, reach into the hat, pull a rabbit out the hat. Miracle is, I know that I'm divine, I keep my mind stayed on God. God tells me to call somebody, that person says, I'm giving away free rabbits. Miracle. Difference between miracle and magic, the miracle requires you to do something. You got to do something. It's not magic. It's miracle. And so when God is instructing you, and I want you to hear me very carefully on this, When you pray and God is saying, you know what, why don't you go check out this doctor? You got to move. When you pray for a new job and God is saying, get some help on your resume, you got to move. You got to actually knock on that door. When you're praying for peace, for joy, and you receive instruction, you have to follow the instruction. Otherwise, you can't say, well, I'm just waiting. I'm patient. Maybe it's just not my time. It's all in God's time. God is immediate. You being lazy. We have to admit it to ourselves. If you look on the bulletin where it says lesson sermon, and it has my name, Gavin R. Jackson. Most people in this room don't know what the R stands for. So I'll let you guys know. The R stands for really bad procrastinator. Like really, really bad. I've had some extraordinary success in my life. But if I wasn't such a procrastinator, I probably would have showed up here in a helicopter today. Procrastination is you trying to trick yourself out of the laws of God. You can't trick the laws. The law's going to work. God tells you to move, and you say, well, maybe tomorrow. I don't feel like it's a day. And you're wondering why the door is not open. It's because you're not knocking. You are not moving. One last just technique on knocking, because I really believe that moving your feet is so important in it. If you do not know what to do, you don't know what your next step is, you have been praying, you've been peaceful, you know you deserve it, you are divine, and you cannot figure it out, just find somebody else that you can help do what you are trying to do. I want you to hear me. If you are trying to get money, help somebody else get money. If you are trying to get health, help somebody else find health. If you are trying to find a healthy relationship, help somebody else get a healthy relationship. Don't be a matchmaker. But my point is, you cannot bless someone else without you being blessed. When I walked up the sidewalk this morning, I saw our water hose out, trying to keep the lawn from getting brown. And I said, well, the hose that's bringing the water to the sprinkler, it has to get wet because it's bringing the water. If you are bringing the good to someone else, you must be blessed by the good because you are the container. If you don't know what to do, help the next person. And so now as I turn to the master teacher here, you guys see this circle up here? Spirit, soul, body. We all know, if you've taken any class, you know you are a threefold being. You know that you are spirit, soul, which is your entire mind, and you are body. And the way that we draw it in that circle and divide it like that, that was created. That concept was created by Reverend Carey. Just drawing that out, teaching us how to learn it. You cannot successfully move and be a threefold being without using a threefold process. You must recognize that you are a spiritual being. You must recognize that you have your entire mind, which means you can choose whether you want to look to the back, look to Trump, or look to God. You must recognize that you are still a body. You are still here on earth. So you got to work. It only works if